Welcome, everyone, to the 12th episode of the Casandra Properties podcast. We are so happy, so thrilled, so excited, and so surprised, quite honestly. We have now amassed a following in 49 countries. We have over 8,200 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, each and every one of you, for the comments, the support, the love, the criticism, and everything in between. We're joined today by the rock star of the company, and I'm getting a smirk as I say it. He knows it, I know it, we all know it. Mr. Rob Nixon, the Deal Ninja. How are we doing today, babe?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Happy to be here.
Are you happy?
I am.
Good.
I feel you got some time for me.
Yeah. There's going to be a little banter back and forth today. Rob and I have always had a really interesting relationship, and I think that we've both grown to learn. That's part of it. And we'll get into some of the things that we're doing to help work on that relationship and to help build and foster a much more productive atmosphere. But as we always like to do, we're going to kind of go back to the beginning, Rob, and we want to talk a little bit about, what's made Rob Nixon, right? So give us some of the background. Where'd you go to school? Were you a native Staten Islander? Let's take it from the top.
Sure. So I grew up in Staten Island. I was raised in the Westerly area. Went to PS30, then IS51. I was a public school guy, and then I went to Xavier High School in Manhattan, which was a great experience. I then went to Marist College, where I got my degree in finance and entrepreneurship. I graduated in 2013. That was a great time. Learned a lot in there as well. And quickly found myself into real estate. Actually, kind of by accident. I was planning on going into trading. I had some opportunities in fixed income trading in particular, but I didn't really love the direction that it was going in, especially really going digital. And a couple firms I had sat in on, I saw they had these big rooms, these trading rooms, and I noticed there was a lot of empty seats. And I said, how many people were here a couple of years ago? And they're like, oh, this was full. And I'm like, okay, well, now it's 40% full. I'm like, what's it going to look like in a couple of years? And they're like, oh, it's going to be smaller. I'm like, all right, so that doesn't seem like the greatest place to, reach growth. I wasn't really thinking short term. It was really about long term. So by accident, actually, I got involved with James Prendamano and John Patera at the time and got my license and just kind of never looked back. It kind of just grew organically, and it's been a really fun ride. It's kind of crazy. It's 7 years now.
Wow.
And
how old are you now?
28.
You're 28.
I turn 29 next 3 weeks. In the next 3 weeks.
Old, bro.
I know, man. I know. I feel a lot older, to tell you the truth.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Xavier experience.
Sure.
So you're a public school kid prior to that? Mm-hmm. And Westerly kid, we grew up, very close. I'm over in West Brighton, so I'm basically one neighborhood over from you. I'm a PS45 kid. I'm an IS61 kid. I would never have had the confidence, the drive, the security to go to a Xavier. Like, how does that happen? And, was there testing for you? Were your friends going there? Was it always a goal? Did it just kind of fall out of the trees one day? How does this happen?
So it's funny you asked that, because I was just thinking about this morning by happenstance. So I went to a program called the HAP program at Xavier. It was a higher achievement program. It was in between 7th and 8th grade. It was a summer program that was you split half the day with sports, and then the rest of the afternoon was just classes. It was through the summer. I have no idea how my mom convinced me to go. Thinking back, like, that's not how I would have imagined I would want to spend a summer in 7th grade. But my mom, I think, had a friend that had done it and said, hey, this is a great experience. Why don't you do it? So I did it, and I loved it. I just loved going to the city. I was really just blessed to have some great people around me. And from that point, all I wanted to do was go to Xavier. So I applied, and I was actually waitlisted originally because for a factor of reasons, but I was waitlisted, and my mom actually called every single day until I got a meeting, and then I wound up getting in, and it was really completely. I got to give all the credit to my mom for that, and college as well. Actually, when I went to high school and college, this is what I was thinking about this morning. I didn't know one person, so I didn't know one person either for high school or college.
So you didn't roll to Xavier with all the guys that you mentioned now from back in the day. Those were not.
No, I didn't know any of those
you
guys.
made there.
Yeah, all my buddies, all my close friends now, I'm just so fortunate because Xavier gave me such great friendships that, those guys are like my brothers. Actually, we had dinner for one of their birthdays last night. It was 10 of us, and somebody was walking by and was like, wow, you guys got a heck of a group. I'm like, yeah, we've been really fortunate. We've stayed so close, and I think Xavier was a major part of that. I think the environment, it was very disciplined, very, very strict. And it was really a brotherhood. It really was, and I don't think I'd be where I am today without Xavier. Well, I loved it.
Mad props to Gloria for seeing that in you and forcing you to go into that program, because that's it's interesting that we've been on such different paths, right? And and every time we sit and we actually take the time to talk, and it's ludicrous that that's what this is, right? We're going to sit down and have a conversation.
Sure.
We have to schedule a podcast so that we could sit down and talk. We've been trying to make this happen since the first episode, and it's just been one series of insanity and just craziness after the next. And, for even back into the 7th grade, the self-help and the motivation and the promotion type things in your life, being even ingrained into you back then, with me since 5th grade, I've always had just been working, and I've never taken the time to kind of step away and look at the other side of it. And you've played not even a big role, the only role in moving me there, and we'll get into that a little bit further on as we get down to the podcast. So, you're without a doubt you're here by far and away more than anybody else. You're motivated, you're driven, you're first one in, last one out. That's a big part of what's attracted me to you. We're very much so cut from the same cloth in our work ethic. Our origins are completely different, but the drive has been the same. So what does it for you? What motivates you? What makes you tick? What is it that gets you to get up every day and say, let's go get after it again?
So I think it's I've had something in me since I'm a kid, really. I got my first job. I was working in a law firm at 11 years old, and I had a landscaping business in my neighborhood. One of my neighbors actually brought it up recently because I had 10 lawns, and I literally used to walk around the neighborhood. I had lawnmower, weed whacker, blower on my back, and all this stuff. And it was, so looking back, I was always really entrepreneurial, and I always felt like I had something in me that just felt like I had a lot of potential that I wanted to, fulfill. And motivation has never been the problem for me. It's usually just steering that motivation and making sure it's in the right places. And I think that's what a lot of coaching and leadership tools have really helped me do. I read a lot as well, but I think that's really the biggest thing, is just wanting to live to my potential, and that's certainly not just it's not at all really about money. It's much more about just kind of fulfilling my potential.
So it's interesting. I've tried to, for lack of a better word, mentor you in different places over the years, and you'll see those goalposts kind of keep moving. You'll set your goals. And you're like, man, if I could ever, get to a place where I was selling 20 properties in a year, like I'll be set for life. That, and then you get to that place and it's 50 properties and it's 100 properties. And then it's, if I could ever, master leasing, if I can ever get into the finance side, if I could ever, and it's hard to explain the thirst that it's just always there. And I think you either have that or you don't.
It's either in you or it's not.
I don't think that's something that can be trained, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's not a better or a worse thing.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that you have that, because you do put a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself, and you put pressure around the people around you, whether you recognize it or not, and you put pressure on your loved ones.
Yeah.
It's this Sunday I left the house at 5:30 in the morning. I didn't get back till 9:30 at night on a Sunday.
Yeah.
It's kind of not fair, right? It isn't fair. So a lot of things come with that. And as you go through each iteration and I feel like for me it was every 4 to 5 years since I was 20, I completely had a rebirth. Like I was a different person at 25 than I was at 20, at 30 than I was. I mean, a totally different person.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm at 45 and I'm doing things again that I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be doing, things that are important to me, I never thought would be important to me. And every 5 years or so, for me at least, you had to rejigger, reassess, reevaluate, set new, kind of mid to long term goals and adjust.
Yeah, there was actually a speech that Matthew McConaughey made a couple years ago that really resonated with me. He said someone had asked him, who's your hero, and he said, well, it's me in 10 years. And he said, and then 10 years went by, and he was like, well, who's your hero? Is it, have you succeeded? He's like, not even close. He's like, well, who's your hero now? And he's like, me in 10 years. And it's just, you're always chasing that next thing. You want to, get better. For me, it's not I realize it's not tangible anymore from the standpoint of what you just said about 20 properties or 50 properties or money. I mean, all those things are just ways of keeping score. But for me, it's just whether I feel it or not, and even with deals, if I don't get a deal or I lose a deal or something happens, as long as I know that I did everything I could have done to put it together, then I'm okay with that. I could sleep with that at night. I'm extremely, extremely hard on myself, and I know when I didn't, even if I fail to admit it sometimes, but I know deep down in my core every time that's the case. And I think that's a big driver too. Just wanting to be better, and that's where I think a lot of the self-help and a lot of the improvements, self-improvement comes in, just wanting to be better, right? And that's every aspect of life.
So we've been striving to be better here for a long time, not in a methodical way for far too long of that period, in a much more organized way now than ever before, but still nowhere near where we want to be. But that's led to challenges, right? Our relationship has been, like, if someone could follow us around with a camera, I legit think that we've got like a rock, solid, amazing docu-series,
probably.
Real Estate, Diaries, Staten Island, to see the thing, the ups and downs and the ins and the outs that we've gone through over the years but that's because of the passion.
Yeah. That's listen. You've been a major mentor to me throughout the years, and I thank you for that. And and I'm sure you'll continue to be. And I think every relationship has to be mutually beneficial, right? Hopefully I've taught you a lot of things along the way, and I think that's what it comes down to. I think when you're in a high pressure environment, you have to be you just got to not be sensitive, and you got to be able to just, because when both parties and you are in just a very pressure-filled environments, and they just got a lot going on. Things get said, things get ignored, feelings get ignored, and you kind of got to put that aside and just pick up and just keep going. And I think every now and then you got to communicate and talk about things and get it out, and just keep plugging forward. But I think we're at the point now where, because you're right, we've definitely bumped heads over the years, and I think we're at the point now where, as long as every day, we kind of know that we're on the same path, right? In the sense that, whether you're here or I'm not here or vice versa, like we're doing different things. We're still working, right? It's there's no secret there. We're both, whether it's in early, out late, it's not physically here. It's always around the clock, and that's just kind of what it has to be. As long as you're moving towards that common goal, that's really all that matters.
Sounds like you're making excuses to not be around the office.
Well, I mean, I'm here earlier than anybody else every day, but including Sunday. But it was counting.
So there was a point in time where that would have been like a legitimate comment, like, so you're not going to be around. Like that's the fierce competition. That's the level of intensity that comes with...
What do you mean? You said it to me yesterday.
With these personalities. I said there was a time. I didn't say when the time was. And that's created a lot of challenges because it's hard to say this, but when you derive a lot of your value, your sense of self-worth from your work, it is almost impossible to not internalize it and personalize it. So when things go good at work, it's confirmation, it's fulfillment, it's it's the pinnacle, right? You're hitting all the marks because that's where you're deriving a significant amount of your self-worth. And
Sure.
then when things go wrong, and it could be something as simple as just basic communication, which we have found out is so key in this and in every relationship.
In every relationship.
Those little misses turn into festering, infected wounds. And because we personalize our work, which you shouldn't do, but we do because it's ingrained in us, those things can lead to massive, dragged out, silly, painful experiences.
Sure.
So we got to a point where it was really challenging. And Rob had, and this is, on all the podcasts, we try and be just raw, honest, and really candid, and we try and deliver value. Sometimes that value is market insight. Sometimes that value is, personal growth and things that we've experienced, and trying to impart some sort of wisdom, if you will, from the 25 years in this business. And today, a big part of that value, I do want to touch on the market quickly, but a big part of that value is the lion's pride and the self improvement and the communication and all of the things that you've brought to the table for me and has changed profoundly how I'm doing things. So why don't we talk about, it was me, you, and Brian went to an event. So when did it kind of it hit the fever pitch with us where the three of us were just constant fighting? When was that event that you had suggested we go to?
I think it was, I know exactly when it was actually. It was January of 2019.
So 2019. So we're really at a place where, again, when things are good, it's tough to imagine how good it is, right? It's camaraderie and it's laughing and it's killing it and we're making money and we're servicing our clients and we're proud of our work product and we're hammering away. And then when it's bad, it's bad. It's
Well, sometimes the business is great when that's happening too.
Yep, without a doubt.
Many times.
So you had suggested that we go to a workshop that Chad had put on. Was that through Lions Pride or was that the I'm Empowering? Or
Yeah, it was.
it was Lions Pride?
Yeah.
So Chad Reyes and Danielle over at Lions Pride had put together a communication boot camp is kind of how I remember it was branded. And it was, to be a good leader, you need to be able to communicate, and to grow, you need to be able to communicate, and blah, 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 blah. This is what I'm thinking at the time. And I'm like, I know how to communicate. I know how to be clear. I'm super organized. I'm super precise. What do you mean I don't know how to communicate, right? This is genuinely,
Right.
legitimately what I thought. So I said, okay, these guys want to go. It's the least I could do. It's a Saturday. We're going to burn a whole day, but whatever. I'll go. It'll keep them quiet. I put my time in. Let's go. Life-changing day for me.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Some of the basic core things that they had imparted to us that day about how legitimately I could look at this eraser and I know it's an eraser. I know in every fiber of my being this is an eraser. And you can look at this eraser and see something entirely different.
Right.
And you can know that it is whatever it is you perceive it to be. Maybe you don't view it as an eraser. You view it as a clean slate tool. Who knows what it is? But we can be that opposite in our beliefs, and doesn't have to mean someone is wrong, right? And that's where I was making left turns when I should have been making rights. I thought that, well, I know it's an eraser. I know in time you'll know it's an eraser. I know that if we all believe it's an eraser, we'll be better. So just get behind me and let's plow through and everyone pick up their damn eraser and let's get where we need to get.
Right.
And that was not the case. So I came to learn that, in fact, through their boot camp, by the time we got to the discussion of if this even is an eraser, we were already lost. We were in two completely different worlds.
Right.
Once we retreated to our different mental states, one of which was fear. I think it was 83%. Once the brain releases a certain chemical, I don't remember exactly the nuances of this. You folks, you can look this up. This is like, legit.
Yeah, F and F or something like that.
Once your brain releases that chemical, you cannot absorb 83% of what someone is saying. Mm-hmm. So think about how impactful that is if we're trying to have a strategic discussion on a multi-million-dollar asset or not on anything, but in particular when the stakes are high and we're trying to communicate and get on the same page, and I'm losing the people that I'm supposed to be leading, and they cannot even absorb 83% of what I'm saying. And it started to connect, right? You start to have these flashes in your mind of so many times you've had meetings where you would adjourn a week later and you'd be like, okay, hey guys, how did we do here? Did this get done? Was that taken care of? Did you do this? And people were looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Right. We never talked about, like, but if you don't understand that, right, and you're in a leadership role by default, right? I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to be a business leader or I'm going to be a community leader. Just you get in and you get in the grind and things happen. You end up where you are. The only perception for me for 2 decades was they're not listening, they don't care, they're not invested. And I don't mean you guys, I mean in my whole life, right? And to learn that only 17% of what I was saying, maximum, could even be absorbed. Literally, like at that moment, you guys probably didn't pick up on it back then, but when that was happening, it blew, like it really emotionally set me back. It mentally set me back. It was like, oh my God, like I am an asshole. But honestly, like, all this time that I thought I've been helping and leading and working and fighting and get behind me and we'll go. And I've done that, but at what cost, right? You turn around and you look behind you and you see people are catching shrapnel all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, why are they catching shrapnel? I'm the one that's leading this charge. I'm taking all the hits. I'm taking all the shots. But the collateral damage of doing things in a not professionally trained way, right? Mm-hmm. When you're trying to build a professional organization is catastrophic.
Yeah. Well, what you just said is, so I vouched to myself a few years ago that I was going to always, whether it's spend X amount of dollars or X amount of time on just things to better myself, improve myself, learn. And so I've done some pretty cool stuff over the years. I've done, I did Tony Robbins. I forget what the name of it was. I did Tony Robbins for like a 4-day event. I've done a handful of others, and I listen to daily podcasts, and I've spoken to countless people about it, and some of the most successful people I deal with, they're all tuned in. But you find that, like, for example, Tony Robbins it's a commitment. So like it's 3 or 4 days, and the days are brutal. I think they're like 14-hour days, and that's the idea, is to like really push yourself, right? And oftentimes it's one little thing you get out of it that is what changes everything for you. So that's, especially with Tony Robbins, I learned a lot about habits, for example, right? Like your habits and behaviors. Everyone's like, well, I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money, or whatever it may be, right? And you have habits that maybe block you from doing that. So everyone's like, oh, well, I'm going to change the habit. Well, the truth is the habit and the behavior is not going to change it, right? Because habits come back, habits form the other way, which way, right? But you got to peel way deeper than that and find out deep down the values and what makes you do those things. And that's the only way you can really change it. So that is something that I've tried to do, and I've been successful with it in a lot of like personal ways. But just again, there's so many. It could be just one little thing that clicks that makes all the difference for you.
Yeah. So for me, that was the first click was for people who and I genuinely love all you guys, right? Genuinely, you guys are family. I've tried to show that, but in a way that without professional training doesn't convey the right way, and without being able to recognize what else was going on, it just was a recipe for disaster. And it's hard to get to a place, Rob, where I've had some measure of success, right? You know, doing things a certain way, we have gotten some good things done. And it's tough to sit back and say, well, maybe I'm not doing things the way I should be. Maybe you get afraid. Like, do I start making profound changes now in the way that I've done things? Because to some extent, they've worked. But everybody, I guess, has their point. And for me, at that seminar, or that boot camp, again, I think is how it was dubbed, that was the first moment for me. And then it's been a slow burn, trying to get comfortable enough to, because if you're not going to, look, I couldn't recommend this coaching stuff more resoundly. I mean, it is now one of the keystone, bedrock, foundational things that I'm weaving into everything that I do, because in a short period of time, I'm seeing unbelievable value, right?
Communication boot camp. That's what it was called. You're right.
It was a communication boot camp. Okay. So, but you have to be honest with yourself.
Super honest with yourself. That's the biggest thing. Otherwise, you're not really getting any value. You have to be brutal with yourself. You don't have to necessarily put that out in public, but you need to at least, you need to know it. You have to commit, and you have to really buy in, or you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. So one of the tools that Chad's team is deployed for us, and at Rob's encouragement, I went ahead and did it, was called the Pro D assessment. Right? So talk about a brutal, peeling back of the onion to get to. And when you're taking this assessment, you're acutely aware that if I answer this brutally honestly, what's going to come back, right? And as you're looking at it, you go, well, I think I'm a 7. I think I'm a 7 in that area. And you're dog shit. You're a 2, right? But when you're able to have that hard hour and a half moment of constant kicking in the teeth as you pour through this thing, what it produced on the other side was really helpful.
Well, I think that's part of it. You got to be really super honest, because part of those things that make you areas that you have major flaws in, let's just say, that might be a major benefit for you. Right. That might be what makes you really successful in other areas. So I heard something recently where it was, do what you do best and pay for the rest. And that is something I am buying in 1,000%. So that's where I think the Pro Ds or Myers-Briggs or any of those kind of collection of personality tests, leadership tests can really help to see, okay, what is the best, what role do you belong in?
Right. What
is your absolute skill set? And let's keep you in there so you can do nothing but multiply. And then you stack a team around that to complement it, and it could be lethal. I mean,
so I want to spend a couple of minutes on that, because that's easier said than done, right? That it takes a certain level of confidence to get to the place where, number one, you recognize what you really are best at, because what you're best at does not always align with what you enjoy doing most. So that's number one. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The second thing is you have to recognize that it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's an absolute must to surround yourself with people that are really good in areas that you're not, right? Where you have excellence, you need to, first of all, identify what that excellence is. I had a coaching session with Chad this morning, and I had another one of those moments where we were talking about where my time should be spent and where I should be focusing.
That,
and he was like, you're not an admin. You're not a CEO. Like, that's your title, but that's not what you're an entrepreneur. You're a marketer, you're a leader, you're a salesman, you're a lot of things that you're really exemplary at. Sitting down and analyzing the budget of the marketing and getting together and putting together the pro formas for the year's charitable, donations, and getting together, individual reports on what
that's not your thing.
That's not me.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy to be sitting here after this amount of time, because I've done all of it, right? I've been trying to move it all, and we've had some measure of success, so we've done some of these things, but exactly what you said. What was the tagline? Pay for you what?
Do what you do best and pay for the rest.
Do what you do best and pay for the rest, right? So it's a very it's a tough discussion, but once you get to that point and you're comfortable, you've got to surround yourself with absolute rock stars. And things that I thought that I was better at, it turns out I'm not. And things that I thought I wasn't as good at, it turns out I am. And, we now have to sit down, and we made a first pass at it, but we have to sit down and really measure up those Pro-D assessments. We have to really take a look at where our strengths are so that as we move forward into, our next venture together, which I want to talk about, is CapEx, we're able to cover all of the critical bases in our absolute area of expertise and have others pick up the slack in the areas where we're not, right? So we need to pull that back. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about the plan ahead. Like that was such a crazy tool, and I've never done that before. Like we've always had, I call them whiteboard sessions, brainstorming sessions, where we sit down and we kind of hammer out and we chart a course and we chart a path. So folks, if you've never done a plan ahead, what an unbelievably valuable tool. We sat together with Chad's team on another initiative we're working on for CapEx, and we said, let's get this plan ahead together. And they said we need 3 hours. And we were like, 3 hours. We need 3 hours to put together a couple of thoughts. Okay, again, I have to catch myself, right? Like, he's nailed it, and Danielle has nailed it on everything we've touched. Let's allocate 3 hours and let's go through the exercise.
Right.
So can you talk the audience through what a plan ahead is and why it is so damn valuable?
Sure. So I guess for every big initiative that a company is, it could be on a personal level too, I guess, right?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, sure. So from a personal level and or for any big movement that you want to make, let's say within a business, it sounds kind of easy and straightforward, right? But it's not necessarily. So there's this concept called a plan ahead, which there's templates for, where you basically identify everything. You kind of take the existing scenario of where you are, where you're looking to go. Now let's measure that in 12 months, 3 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, predetermine the objectives, put out the goals, figure out the priorities with it, and then really break down roles of exactly who's going to do what, how are we going to measure and really attach accountability to everything. And kind of put it into action. So the concept is to quote Chad and say prepare. So you don't have to repair later on, which that really stuck with me because it's something that you and I have been saying. We should have done 3 of these this year on different initiatives.
100%.
And it's just something that you got to kind of. It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of everything, right? And I do it almost every day, and I try so hard not to, because if you sit back and you take a little bit of time and you put those 3 to 5 hours aside and you really look at an initiative and figure out exactly, hey, let's say there's 3 of us, right? In this case, CapEx has three partners. That make a lot of the decisions, some other partners as well. But so we sit down and we say, okay, here's where we're looking to go. What's our objective? But how do we quantify that in 3 months, right? How do you quantify that in 6 months? So I did that with I did that earlier in the year, where I made a schedule for the year, which sounded ludicrous to me, but it really wasn't, right? So I took every single thing that I have going on, different businesses, and I said, okay, well, for this business, how many hours do I want to work a week, right? How does that? So now let's break that out. So if I'm willing to work X amount of hours a week, now how many days is that? So my immediate response was 7, and that was like, well, no, stop. You have to take time for yourself. You have to take time for yourself. So it was like, okay, let me eliminate Sunday, and then even could be half of Monday, whatever it may be. And then
doing it again, guys. See how we used to stretching Sunday now became half of Monday.
Yeah, well then you decided to throw a very early Monday morning meeting, so that you ruined my whole schedule for the year actually. So
you didn't communicate it to me, so how
yeah, I know? So now I have to recast my schedule for the entire year. Thanks to you. And you did that like a month in, so thanks. So you then allocate time. You say, okay, well, for each business, how much time do I really have to do to get there, right? If my goal is this, what do I have to do? What do I think I need to do in order to get there? And then really lay it out. And so now I've become not nearly as diligent as I'd like to be or disciplined, but I'm getting there where now I really break out my days and my hours of exactly, how much time I'm going to allocate towards each business to make sure that things are getting done. And then I think it's also crucial, and that's why I'm trying to bring some people onto my team personally to really, you need people, right? And that's if there's anything I've learned from past experiences, you need people on board. Yep. You can't do things alone. There's no fun in it, but also just you need people that can complement you and really help get those initiatives through. So that's now I'm really trying to put that in place to, okay, if I want to fulfill these goals realistically, how do I do it? Who do I need on board? And that's kind of the part I'm working through now.
So, these plan aheads are helping us to define very clearly. You'd be surprised. It sounds silly, but until you sit down and you really have to break it out in a methodical way with a timeline and then communicate clearly what the objectives were. For me, the shortcoming was never strategic planning. I'm a really good strategic planner. Communicating the vision, the plan, is where I failed. Mm-hmm. Right? So what I saw in my head and what I thought I was communicating was, not even close to what actually was being communicated. So slowing it down, getting these plan aheads in place for the key initiatives, for things that you're working on, folks, it's really important. And again, I would urge you to think about looking at how you've been doing things a little bit differently, because for me, it's been a tremendous value, and I'll always be thankful to Rob for forcing me to slow it down and to explore some of the self-help and the business coaching, because it's been invaluable. Time management's another thing that you just touched on that for me is a big one. I'm finding that every minute of my day is booked now, like literally every minute. Drop the kids, and from that 7:20 until 9 o'clock at night, call, Zoom, meeting, text, blah, 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 right? And while I'm in each one, I'm not in them, because I'm doing this, stop. Real estate doing this, commercial leasing doing this, CapEx doing this, Dave doing that, and I'm not fully in them. So
and that's right, and that's a big part of. That's very important, right? You got to analyze that to make sure. And now I think that now I understand the whole point of now, like, setting certain days or half of a day aside to one specific business. It has to be, because you got to be all in. And you got to be present there.
Bro, I found I did this with CapEx the other day. I sat for like 3 hours and I just did CapEx stuff, and I found that really quickly, maybe 25 to 30 minutes in, like, I hit my stride.
Yep.
It was like, I'm making progress. It wasn't, okay, I have to move this forward. Okay, I said I was going to do that. It was like, boom, boom, boom. It felt good, right? I wasn't answering the phone for a couple of hours. I had Becca backing me up on the emails. Let me just go do what I do best. And I hammered through a bunch of stuff, and I think that's got to be part of my future changes, is I want to start allocating larger tranches of time to each specific initiative or business, because that's where I'm best.
Well, that's where, like, a plan ahead comes in, because people overestimate what they could do in a day, but they really underestimate what they can do in a year or 2 years or 5 years. Frank Nasso said that to me a couple of years ago. Frank Nasso's a very successful builder on the island. I've learned a lot from him, and I was 25 at the time, and he said, I could see it in you. He goes, you put so much pressure on yourself. He goes, and I bet you feel like you're nowhere, right? And I'm like, you have no idea. He's like, I feel like where I'm at is just not at all where I thought I'd be or where I want to be. And he was like, well, listen, you're 25. He goes, but let me tell you this. He goes, that 25 to 30 is. It might be 5 years, but it's not. It could be. There's a lot that could happen in that time. 5 years, especially once you hit your stride. For me, I feel like I haven't even got started yet.
Yep.
So I'm approaching 30, and I got some friends that are like, "Oh man, I can't believe 30's here. It's terrible." And like for me, I'm like, I know where I want to be at 30. The goals that I used to have are like, forget it, they're in the past now. And I'm but now I'm grateful. I mean, I'm marrying an amazing woman. I got I'm in a really good position as far as where I'm at with business, and just in general, I feel great with where I'm at, and I just feel like I've learned a lot now, and now I'm just hitting my stride, and I can't wait. And that's a big part of this new business that we're pretty amped about.
Who was the guy we sat with who literally, and I thought he was nuts at the time, and now I'm envious of how pragmatic his approach to time management was. He literally schedules having a cup of coffee.
Yeah, so he's I don't know if he wants me to mention, but he's a
brilliant guy. I mean, God bless him.
Really successful financial advisor on the island, and he is the most diligent guy I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. He actually huge advocate for coaching. I mean, he goes to these events in Canada and all over. I think he's done 10X with Grant Cardone. He's done a big one. Really cool. But he actually schedules 20 minutes to hang out, which to me, kind of sounds crazy, but you know what? No, it's really not. If you start figuring it out, and there's no excuse for anything, right? You have time for everything. With working out, right? I try at the minimum, 3-4 days a week. I'm up early. I'm up early regardless, but working out, and there's just no excuse. There's no excuse not to put 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a couple times a week. There's just no excuse. And that's with everything. But once you kind of figure out a system of, how your body thrives, everybody's different, right? How your mind thrives, how your body thrives, listen, I got to put these little pockets in. If it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and I think that's a big thing about being on the entrepreneurial side is, I remember when I first got in the business, I guess in my head, I think a lot of people, right, especially younger, you just kind of figure, okay, well, there's you go to work from 9 to 5, and that's how it goes. And I remember, when I started here, it was 12, and everyone was like, you want to go see a movie? And I was like, go see a movie? It's middle of the day. Isn't that we could do that? So we went and saw the movie, and we literally went, I think, from 12, and we got lunch after, we came back at 4, and we were in the office till 1 in the morning.
Yep.
And that's okay. Sometimes I do that. I'm just not in a great head, or I need a little break, and I watch a series in my office for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love having the ability to kind of just dictate what it's going to be. People always say, oh, you create your own schedule, you can do whatever you want. It sounds great in theory, but you often wind up working even more that way.
Without a doubt.
But at least you kind of have control from that standpoint. And it's just a fun ride in general, and I think that's where the the entrepreneurial side comes in, and it's exciting. I think we've really made countless strides. Me and you personally, the company, what Cassandra's done is amazing, especially over this past year. Big props to Pete over here for really taking it to the next level on the marketing side. And it was really such an organic fit. I'm really excited we're doing this new venture, CapEx funding, which we launched a few weeks ago. Great turnout so far, especially in such a kind of crazy climate in the world. We're actually launching our first podcast next week. It's going to be called Breaking Ground. That'll be CapEx's version of the podcast here. I'm going to be switching seats with James for that one, and just really excited to kind of offer our clients another side of the business. We have really built an incredible network of lenders now. We've really been working on this for over a year, right? I mean, it's been countless efforts.
It's been a long road in, but it's been a methodical one, and layering the coaching in. I've literally never been more excited I've been involved with a lot of things in my career. I've been blessed to have been involved in very wide array of things, right? From the stuff that was going on upstate to some of the stuff downstate and everything in between. I've never been more excited for a company because we took the time to step back, to plan. We took the time to work on plan aheads. We took the time to really lay out very specific goals and initiatives. We've got a great partner that complements our shortcomings wonderfully. So in essence, what we're doing, we're excited about it. We kind of went over it. We're going to be providing and arranging for, it's going to be like a white glove service company that's going to arrange for a capital market specialist, which in English means we're going to be doing mortgages. Right, we're going to be taking our clients and going through their portfolios and optimizing them, right? We're going to be not just like a mortgage broker gets a file and they fire it out to 5 banks and whatever happens, happens. We're going to analyze the portfolios. We're going to drive value. We're going to identify where, through the responsible use of debt, we can really optimize that portfolio. And then we're going to go reposition them. And then with that, it's opened up to a commercial side of it, right? This is now where we've made some amazing connections with the banks, and there's a huge need out here in Staten Island.
It's already quickly broken out into several divisions, actually. So we basically have the commercial side. Let me clarify, too. So we are not doing residential mortgages. We never want to compete with the residential guys. We've got some great friends, partners in the residential side, and that's what they do best. It's not what we do. So we are a commercial firm only, alternative products, conventional products, hard money, you name it, we're doing it. We have pretty much 3 sides of the business, which is the commercial and kind of traditional financing. So that's your retail, office, mixed use, multifamily. Sure, I missed something in there, but medical. So pretty much everything in the commercial sector on the more traditional side. Incredible rates. I mean, unbelievable rates. We're doing we're doing a shopping center right now where it's 3.75. It's a 75% LTV in this climate, nonetheless. I mean, really just amazing. A lot of light industrial deals, owner user, finding within the market where a lot of owner users couldn't compete because the investor market was so strong. Now it's really allowed the owner-user market to come in and thrive, and we're helping a lot of business owners get where they want to be. And so that's one side of the business. We then kind of have the middle of the road, which is your fix and flip, heavy rehab, new construction, ground up, pretty much everything from your traditional lenders to your bridge lenders to your soft to hard lenders. I mean, we're building out such an incredible network. We're going to have over 350 lenders hopefully by year's end, and then we have some killer programs in the multifamily or just rental market space. So I mean, we're gonna get into that next week, but really, really great dynamics between with the ownership group. We got some new guys on board that we're everybody's really committed to the mission here. We got a great energy, and I'm pumped. I'm super pumped. I can't wait to share it with everybody. We're going to have a major educational component too, which I think I'm more excited about than just about anything. And in addition to the podcast, we're going to have a ton of educational videos, ton of blogs, just a ton of kind of updates from market specialists, right, in each individual sector, because we're finding that a lot of terms that have become second nature to maybe somebody like me, you read some of these things and you don't know what they necessarily mean. When it's simple as recourse or loan to value, loan to cost. So we're going to explain all that, right? So we want anybody that might be looking to buy something, refinance something, now, in the future, whatever it may be, like, we're here, follow us, and we're going to help you. We're just going to be a resource.
Without a doubt. We want to be a resource on as you said, on the educational side. It's so important. There's a lot of acronyms that are thrown around in the industry that people don't quite understand, and unless you're in it, you wouldn't understand it, but they're important, right? So that's a big part of what we want to do. I know that we're both pushing up against our next meetings, so unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on.
No, just really just thank you so much for letting me come in here. Obviously, just happy to be here. We're constantly changing, right? We're constantly evolving. I think on the CP side, I've made so many changes myself, and I have a plan to kind of grow a team internally, and I think that all the strides we're making are just really built for the future, and really looking forward to sharing it with everybody. So again, thank you for allowing me to come in. Thank you for everything, of course, that you always do for me. And Pete, really great work. I love the marketing initiatives you have really rolled out, and it's just great stuff overall.
Well, I appreciate it, and of course, I appreciate you and all that you've done for me. So with that, folks, Rob, thank you for coming. Love you. I'll catch you on the next one. Check us out on all the platforms, everybody. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, on and on and on. Please keep the comments and suggestions coming. Everybody, thank you and stay safe.